Yeah, through the chair, that's about 66% is the number I've been quoted around the impact.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That brings an end to Councillor Collins. Sorry, your last-minute addition.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Supplementary to that, would it also have an impact on those from minority backgrounds, including Māori, Pacific, ethnic?
Through the chair, we haven't done that level analysis.
Thank you.
Okay. Interesting question, but we can't give you an answer at this stage. Okay, councillors.
Yeah.
Councillor Quacks.
Just following up on Councillor Clo's question. So, do men and women who do exactly the same job in this organisation get paid exactly the same amount of money? So two people doing exactly the same job, do they get exactly the same?
Who does the cleaning?
Toilet and you clean the female toilet.
How many male toilet cleaners are there?
Yeah.
So through the chair, is the question, if they're undertaking the same job, do they get paid the same amount of money? So to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
But there are disproportionate.
So the librarian.
There are other questions that will come into that, like the pay equity question that's being considered by the courts. Okay, I think we now want to move on to the discussion around the annual plan. It might be futile, but just to remind you that we've had 3 sessions on that now: a workshop, the past governing body, and the Finance and Performance extensive discussion last Tuesday. But it is open for debate and it is open for amendment. Councillor Sayers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have an amendment I'd like to table, which is up there on the board. I'd just like to move that amendment.
I'm happy to second.
Okay, would you like to speak to it, or should I just put the amendment?
I'd like to speak to it, Mr. Mayor. I understand, do I have 10 minutes?
Hopefully not.
But understanding order.
I think we've had quite an extensive. I think we've got the standing order said 5 minutes, but if we can keep it as succinct as possible.
I won't need the full 5 minutes, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to understand what the time frame was. Earlier this week in the Finance and Performance Committee meeting, I did foreshadow that I wanted to have this item debated. It's already been alluded to in the earlier question sessions about Aucklanders having the opportunity to consider a 2% rate increase and the effects that could have in terms of necessary cost efficiency savings. So just to make it quite clear, what the proposal is to include, in addition to your proposal, Mr. Mayor, an additional consultation topic around the around a 2% rate increase. So not to override the 2.5, but to include it as an option for Aucklanders to consider. I want to introduce the item by talking about the role of governance and the roles that we play as councillors in terms of guardian of ratepayers' money. It goes beyond just the legislation and the policy training that I had as a new councillor. It also includes prudent financial management and a full accountability and transparency, which we've heard a little bit about earlier today. You know, in a past life, I've owned a financial management software company. I've been the director of 2 New Zealand exporting companies and also the chair of those companies. So I understand, you know, governance does include not just understanding the capital investments that we make as a council group, but also an understanding of, and not to the nth degree, but of the operational costs around each CCO and Auckland Council itself. We had an interim report this week from those CCOs, which, through my questioning, you would have picked up. I felt that the financial reporting around the OPEX and our ability to drill down into those was highly inadequate. I'm very pleased, you know, with the intentions of the rate adjustments, Mr. Mayor, that you've proposed. You know, you were moving us from a 3.5% LTP target to a 2.5%, and congratulations. And what's that's done at your leadership, Mr Mayor, is asked the organisation to respond. So the organisation has come back to you and said, look, yes, we can make those savings, and this is how we'll do it. So what I'm saying is that we put, as governors, we put the challenge out again to see if we can reach that 2% saving. In the introduction, Mr Mayor, I'd like to specifically mention wages, because that is a topic that's coming up today. You know, the projections of the wage bill is to go up to $1 billion in future years, and despite, which is a concern, despite the hundreds of hours that your team would put into preparing wages budgets, and then coming to us for approval, like you will be next year with the annual plan, and the year after with the long-term budget and plans. Despite all of that, we see our wages budgets blowing out, and that's where the public can get particularly disappointed in our performance. Blowing out a hard-worked-on budget by, over $50 million, and I think it was $64 million last year, is just something I think as governors we should not be tolerating. And it's just a message to the chief executives of Auckland Council and the CCOs that no more blowouts, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, I haven't finished,
Oh,
Mr Mayor.
sorry.
Thank you.
He who hesitates is lost.
Yeah, no, if we float this out to the public and the public say, okay, we kind of understand what the implications could be if we went for a 2% rate increase, if they come back with that desire, Mr Mayor, I don't think we should ignore it. There's been a criticism in the past couple of terms that people take time and participate in our submission processes, and it seems like Council's mind is already predetermined and that their voice is not heard. So if this does go through and it does come back that they want a 2% rate increase and balance with the cost savings, as indicated in the proposal up there, we should honour that. We should not go for a 2.5% rate increase if the majority are wanting a 2% rate increase. So just, I have every confidence in the organisation that should they be asked to look at more cost savings, that they could come up with it. That needs to be driven from the top down. And that's what I'm proposing today, that we step up to the mark and ask for the exercise to be done by going out to the public and asking if they would like that to be undertaken. I want Auckland Council and the council-controlled organisations to try harder to deliver on the promises of the super city of doing more with less.
Councillor, you've just run out of time. Can you just wind up immediately, please?
Move an extension of time, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move an extension.
An extension of, well, let's just put it to the vote. It's a procedural motion. An extension of time has been moved. It's been seconded. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. No.
Division.
Have a show of hands, if, unless a division is called for formally. I don't want to waste time. Just remember, if we're making an extension for one, we'll make an extension for a lot.
Point of order, a division has been called for.
Okay, division has been called for. I'll ask officials to have a division vote on the extension of time.
Oh, for God's sake.
Division on the extension of time. Mayor Goff.
No.
Councillor Casey.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Cashmore.
No.
Councillor Clow.
No.
Councillor Collins.
No.
Councillor Cooper.
Yes.
Councillor Darby.
No.
Councillor Philippina.
No.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yes.
Councillor Hills.
No.
Councillor Hulse.
No.
Councillor Mike Lee.
Yes.
Councillor Newman.
Yes.
Councillor Quacks.
Yes, of course.
Councillor Sayers.
Yes.
Councillor Simpson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Sir John Walker.
No.
Councillor Wayne Walker.
Yes.
Councillor Watson.
Yes.
We would have finished his speech by the
We've
time.
got it.
Okay, it's been carried at 11:09. Councillor, you have another 2 minutes.
All right.
Sorry,
thank you, Mr Mayor.
procedural, Mr Mayor. Procedural.
Yeah, Councillor Darby.
The motion was an extension of time. The time is not determined. How do you wish to give effect to that motion?
Just said it.
We
I'm
could be
advised-
here. We could be here tomorrow.
How long have you got to go, Greg?
2 hours.
Just said 10
Let's
minutes.
be-
The,
let's
I'm
be
a-
reasonable
sorry,
to our
we
colleagues.
could perhaps take
Let's be
a
reasonable to our colleagues.
order, please.
Here till tomorrow.
I'm
That's
advised that
ridiculous.
the normal practice where an extension of time is supported, it is for 2 minutes. I think that's reasonable, unless I'm not sure whether that's written into standing orders, but it sounds reasonable to me. Councillor, we could spend longer time debating the procedural motion than it would have taken the councillor to finish his speech. Councillor Sayers, please.
Right, I'll speak a little bit more quickly, Mr Mayor, but thank you for that. Yeah, time does go quickly. So, look, where will the extra savings come from? We don't have to decide that as governors, but we should be asking the question of the bureaucracy. That's what the Mayor's done for the 2.5% increase. We should be doing the same. And just some figures. The LTP saving from moving from the 3.5% down to the 2.5%, or to get to the 3.5%, we had to save about 42 million across the group. In this annual plan to go to 2.5%, there's another 69 million. So it's a total saving of 111 million that the organisation's looking to make. Now, it seems to me if we dropped another percent, the actual saving would be another $8 million, based on the rule of thumb that a 1% increase equals $15 million in extra revenue. So I'll come to that in my questions shortly. I've heard language here today that things are pretty tight and that service levels could be affected. I think we need to be asking Aucklanders if they want us to ask the hard question of how can we make more efficiency savings, whether it's 8 million or 30 million. That's not a big percentage of an over $3 billion OPEX bill. That's me, Mr Mayor, and I've got some questions. I don't know if you want to launch into questions now, or I'll wait my turn.
The time for questions has passed, so this is a time for the councillor to speak. He's still got half a minute if he wants to use it.
All right. Then if we could just clarify my question there around, is the correct figure to reach a 2% rate strike, 8 million or 30 million, just to clarify that? And the other question I have, if wages over $100,000 were frozen for 1 year, what would be the savings to the group? And in closing, Mr Mayor, the proposal is not about future years into the LTP. I'm just talking about here for the next financial year only.
Next financial year only.
Yeah, 2017-18 year, not years beyond that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next councillor to take the call is Councillor Casey.
Oh, I had
It wasn't about the amendments.
Sorry, this is solely on the amendment. We need to deal with the amendment before we move on to general discussion. So would you like to reserve your call for that? Councillor Filipaina?
I also reserve my right in regards to my speaking around the amendment, but I do, however, want a question or have a question on the amendment.
Well, but this is the time to raise points about the amendment now, if you want to take your call
Chair,
now.
just with your attitude, it's just, I don't know how it's going to be reflected. If the 2% goes through, I don't know how it's going to be reflected around the implications, impact on service levels, on debt to revenue ratio. How is that going to be reflected? Because at the moment, the document that we have in front of you, which is your proposal, what we have in front of us gives us at least the impact on 2.5. So if this goes through at 2%, and we've already heard our staff, how will that be reflected? That's simply my question. If I can't answer it, well then I'll just speak to the amendment. I will not be supporting the amendment at 2%. I'll be interested to find out how many of our colleagues around the table signed the pledge for 2%. And I will not be supporting it. We've had our officers and staff, we've had them advise us. If it's 2%, we will then look at the impact on service levels. I've been here, and this is my third term, and service levels right from 2010 was one of the key things that we had. We didn't want service levels to drop for our public. But every year since then, we have always gone out with the rate rise, and there's always been councillors asking for that to reduce. And the impact on our capex, the impact on the community as well. Look, I'm all for having reduction in the rates, but I mean, if that's at the extent of service levels, if that's at the extent of capex in my area, well, no, I will not be supporting it. And I mean, I'm hoping that some of the councillors who have capex projects in their particular local board actually look at which ones that they want to either put off for another 2 or 3 years, just to end up coming down to 2%.